subtle, and it's very hard to exactly pin him down. I think he would say that there's no point to this sort of speculation. He would regard it as a kind of speculation, or which was not tied to an experimental fact, perhaps. I don't know. You see. But I feel that it's important to be able to make it intelligible, and also to show the connection between this and the whole range of experience and other fields.
But there's, in effect, there's no difference at all between your view and the classical view of quantum mechanics, the Niels Bohr view of quantum mechanics, in its experimental predictions.
No, they'll give the same experimental predictions, but see, I think experimental predictions is only one of the functions of a theory. That it's a theory, it's enable you to understand what's going on, to make it intelligible.
But then when the general audience is presented with your views of the universe, it's often based on your interpretation of quantum mechanics. Do you think the general audience acknowledges that this is a very sort of minority kind of interpretation?
Well, I don't know. It's hard for me to know, you see, but you see, I think that the other interpretation, the reason it's not generally known is that it's not intelligible to them. You see, it's so abstract and difficult that they really can't understand what it says. Right? See, I think this interpretation will make the whole thing more accessible to more people, and also perhaps show the connection of different fields in some sense.
But in a way, what people from the Niels Bohr or Copenhagen interpretation school would say is that you're reviving a classical worldview.
It's not. I say it's not classical. You see, I say, for example, with this idea of active information is quite foreign to classical physics. You see, I'd say that the thing that makes classical physics is not just the form of Newton's law, but what you say about the forces. If you say that they are this character of information, it changes it. You see that I say that I'm going to introduce an entirely non-classical concept, which is the activity of information. You see that it contributes fundamentally to the properties of substance. Now, the fact that you still think of a particle doesn't say that it's classical, you see.
But in some senses, your view is more classical than the Bohr view.
It's more like the classical, yes. I wouldn't call it it looks more like the classical, but it's also quite different.
So could you say that it's the classical worldview, but with information
added? Some other things added as well, but which I haven't gone into. But I think that when you have changed the concept so much, it wouldn't be right to call it classical, you see. See, I think the main point, it's hard to say, the main point about would be rather whether we want to take the wave function as the whole description or not. See, I add this particle, right, and say the wave function has the meaning of information that acts on the particle. Right? Now,
maybe you should explain the wave function.
Yes, this wave function is a mathematical representation of the field of information, you see. In the case of one particle, it's like a wave, but it's a wave that acts according to its form and not according to its intensity. With many particles, it's more complex, you see.
And in the Bohr interpretation of atomic physics, you would say that the wave function is just something that we make up to describe.
We make it, well, it's something that Bohr called it an algorithm for calculating experimental results, right, in the phenomena. The wave function is part of an algorithm. You know what an algorithm is, you know?
A way of calculating.
A way of calculating, yeah.
And no more than that.
No more than that. Now, von Neumann said something a little bit different, that the wave function is a complete description of the quantum reality. Now, it's not clear whether Bohr would have ever talked of a quantum reality, because he only talked of this whole phenomenon, right?
But then in your interpretation, it's very important that the wave function is not just part of our description, but part of
we regard it as part of the reality. And see, this would be, if we make an analogy to society, one view would be, say, society consists of a lot of people that you could see interrelated, but another view is to say they're interrelated by information exchange, right? saying that's crucial. Without that, the society would collapse, right? Would not. So I say that's part of the reality of the society, right?
And could you elaborate on your view if you take it to societal analogies? How is your worldview if you give it as a description of human affairs in society?
Yes, well, see, if we think of society, you see, if you compare, you can have every individual trying to follow his own pool of information and leading to chaos. Or you can have people trying to move together with a common pool. And of course, you can have the attempt to impose a pool, but you see, I haven't. But that might lead to a conflict with the pools that are already there. Right? See, I think it's essential to have coherence and order and harmony, that the whole society moves together with a common pool of information, like this ballet dance, which is not imposed, right? But which is established by exchange and dialogue. Right?
Do you think we're moving in that direction?
Well, I think potentially we are. We need to. And some people may be, but you know the general trend hasn't got very far. You see, because everything is divided into nations and religions and other kinds of groups which behave as if they were independent. You see, and when they're not, so people will have to give all that up, and they may find it hard. You see, to deal with the ecological problem, I think people will have to give a great deal of that up.
So you're moving your emphasis from the persons, the individuals, the divided parts to the information flow or the information field of society.
Yes, that's right. But I say each individual contains the whole information field of society in his own way. So
how?
Well, it's in his mind, in his brain. You see, everything you know comes from society practically, right? It may be both information and misinformation, right? But it determines what you do, right?
But you have to read books to get the information.
Yes, but that comes from society, right? Books are part of society. They wouldn't exist. So I say that the individual is formed out of society, but together the individuals form society, right? Now, the individual needs to have freedom to look at all the information and determine in his own way whether whether it's right or not. But finally, he has to be part of society. Now, or we'll call it the culture, if you like, then. So, the individual, see, now what we need for this is that we have so many different individuals, each with his own view, and different groups, each with their own view, coming into clash, right? Now, they have got to be able to talk about it, to dialogue, and to entertain each other's view, to look at it calmly, so that each one can look at all the views, you see. And now, each individual, if he holds all the views, then he holds the whole, right? Now, he doesn't necessarily agree with them, but out of that, I think, would emerge a common pool of information which would guide society.
And when you say that each individual in himself or herself has the whole human experience or knowledge.
Yes.
How does it get in there?
Well, in many ways. It gets in there, first of all, by osmosis. You pick it up implicitly from the family, from friends, from school, what you read, what you watch on television. Television is making this much more so, right? And also, there may be built in some instinctive information, which is common. And there may, for all we know, be hidden connections, which we don't know. But but implicitly, each person contains the whole, right? It's like a hologram which contains the whole, though not in all the detail.
And the hologram